I'm going to skip over a few points. Your lessons are free and unlimited whenever it works, and we'll just go through some more things as you develop questions. Place your quilt squares together. I'm going to do 4 to show you perfect piecing. This machine has a feature about it that my quilters are just like, are you kidding? So I want to show you that right away.
Sure.
I would like to select my 1/4 inch stitch, and I see it right here. It's the first stitch in the quilt stitch menu. Watch the needle when I touch this. It's placed exactly 1/4 inch from the edge of the A foot. If you follow these instructions exact, you'll get exactly what you want. If you have a 1/4 inch stitch, this particular stitch is exactly 1/4 inch. Now, some patterns will call for scant 1/4 inch. Here's how you get it. Plus the needle over to a scant. That's a thread width over to make your seam allowance smaller. It's almost by the eye hard to see. That thread width is hard to see. But if you're doing a pattern that has a lot of intersecting seams, you might want to just move the needle over.
Okay. So when it's 1/4 inch, it's this is where the needle's coming down, right?
Yes. You see how it's moved out of center?
Okay. And this is the 1/4 inch then, where you're guiding it?
Along the foot.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm going to use a full 1/4 inch, so I'm going to default back and touch again, and it reset it. Okay. The foot right now is up so high I'd never know where to begin. So you have a double click situation with down. If you double click down, it's calibrating because I haven't sewn yet, you have wiggle room.
Okay.
So, and also on your foot you have red lines. Notice the red lines are lined up with the raw edge. That's perfect for getting the raw edge and getting this edge and this edge to match so you get your stitch started. These lights that are on right now are going to tie a knot in place, continue to sew. So that's what I'm going to do. There's my knot, and then I'll sew my 1/4 inch. When I'm in the middle of this block, I'm going to now activate my needle down feature, which is here. This gives me all the range of motion I need, but not only that, it lifts the foot up with the needle down so I can insert my next block. So I'm going to keep that activation going and sew until this red line is at the edge of the fabric.
Okay.
It's up in the air, holding that for me. Line up my next block and stitch.
So you push this to activate that, but when you start sewing, then it continues to sew with the foot down, but when you get to the edge, it knows.
Yes.
Okay.
Once you have touched this, it's ongoing. It will completely, whenever I pick up my foot control and stop sewing, it's in control.
Okay.
And it's hovering.
Okay.
So now that I'm done with the block, I would like a knot here. So when I get to the bottom of my block, touching the stop is a signal to tie my knot.
Okay.
I want to cut my threads, but I don't want long tails. Use your scissors. It'll cut that thread. There's no thread on the bottom, and it releases my fabric, which this time it didn't. I don't know why. Oh, it had a little catch there. And it leaves a thread tail about 1 inch long. Now that I've put my 2 pieces together, you just simply use that stitch. I was going to snip and I don't. You use that stitch in the place of your pin. Place your blocks together, and they will naturally flow where they want to go. But usually I have, excuse me, I'm going to place it under this way. The the seam on the top I can see very easily, and the seam at the bottom the feed dogs see, so we'll do it that way. This is already activated, so I don't have to touch it again. But once you've cut your thread, it releases everything. It doesn't shut off the setting, it just releases it. See what I'm saying? This is always activated once I've touched it.
Okay.
But when I touch scissors, it's still activated, but touching scissors releases your needle, your foot, and your fabric.
But when you start again, that's still there.
It's always on until you touch and it goes off. Now I'm going to hover again because I want to line up where I want to sew. And off I go with a knot and my 1/4 inch seam. See, it's still there. So now I can look at my seam and make sure that my thread is holding my seams together. And this top, some people use scissors, some use their stylus, some use a stiletto to get that seam to lay down. Go ahead and stitch. When you get to the bottom of your block, touch stop. Well, I'm going to get there. And cut. So when you have this put together, you have perfect piecing.
Oh, wow.
I knew you'd say
I want
that.
a quilt now.
I knew you'd say that. And see, what is the first thing that people look at? On corners.
Yeah.
And they're the hardest there are. But when you don't have that 3 or 4 stitches called chaining, when you don't have that and you just hover and bottom up, that one stitch is all that holds everything together.
And that would work whether it's a star or any kind of...
Doesn't even matter. However you want to do it, just if you're putting those interacting seams together, and it should look as if you have one row of stitching. Look at how that goes.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
It's just really, really a neat
Awesome.
way. Yeah.
Oh, my.
Is
And-
it cheating a little bit? No, I'm kidding.
You know, and what this machine is an enabler. It enables people to do these intricate patterns that you would think would take hours, and they really don't if you have good equipment. It's like hiring a good carpenter. He's got the right tools. It takes him less time, but he can still charge you as much because his professional results are worth it.
That's my sales pitch to Bob.
Okay.
It's the truth. I mean, you know, why make it hard when you've
Yeah.
got something
Yeah.
that looks as nice
Mhm.
as
That's
that?
cool.
Okay, so now that we have, I was going to measure here, these are 5-inch. So this is going to be about 9.5. We have a 9.5-inch block, and we're going to learn how to center our embroidery design. Okay? So we're combining 2 lessons here, just from going from the quilt menu, and now we're going to go and pop on our embroidery unit so that you'll be able to do this when you get
Okay.
home. And I'm not rushing you or anything, so if you understand the simple principle of the drop down, finding a category, this of course little pieces of candy in a train you would guess are kids stitches, and they are. And you can just select one that you like, maybe pretty little lips. Just select what you like and sew. I strongly recommend a good piece of fabric, a nice stabilizer, and just start sewing these beautiful stitches. Make a note of what you're working with. This is your key. We're in the key menu here, which there are a couple in that. I'll show you. There's 3.
Okay.
Go back to this. And 21 is the number of the stitch. Okay. This is your key. This is kind of like what is that Dewey Decimal System that they find books and so forth. 80 needle is used to make this stitch on a medium fabric, but if you change to maybe a leather and a vinyl, the needle itself will change. You need to put in a 90 stretch needle to put this stitch on a leather or a vinyl. There's many, many different kinds of fabrics in today's world, and this machine is in tune with what we have at our fingertips at the shops today. So there's laminates, leathers, vinyls, all sorts of stretchy stuff, chenilles, and everything.
And how do you know what needle you have in there?
The machine is usually packed with a standard 14.
Okay.
And I like the 80/12s for my quilting. And so if the 80 is the metric, 12 is the American standard measurement. So that a lot of times there's a little confusion in that. The machines are more towards the European measurements, metrics and so forth. So you'll see millimeters, centimeters
Correct.
on your gauge.
Correct. Okay.
Okay, so I don't want to not cover some of the stitches, but it's all a matter of you finding one you like, stitching it out, and seeing what you think about it, and knowing the categories.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to our quilt menu, there are stippling stitches that a lot of gals are wanting to do their quilts, but they don't know how to do that meander.
So explain to me stippling. I know I heard the word, and I know I should know what it means, but tell me what stippling means.
I have a great example of stippling right over here. Stippling is a free form of creating a quilt. This is stippling. This is totally done like your needle is used like a pencil. The fabric is used like a piece of paper. So I'm moving the paper under the needle and drawing. That's stippling. There's many styles.
So it's freehand.
It's all completely freehand.
Okay.
And if I decided I wanted to do a snail's tail or a daisy or leaves or hearts or stars, then I move the fabric to form that. And I do give classes on that and teach you how to do that. But some people aren't comfortable doing freehand. They're afraid that they will mess up their beautiful work of a quilt. So this machine has built-in stitches that you just touch them and sew. And the needle will do the meandering for you, and you won't have to move it.
Good.
A good form of cheating.
I like it.
There's also programs on the web that you can download onto your USB. You actually finish your quilt with. Some of them are free and some of them you will pay for, but they're all there. So I wanted to point that out too. We'll go to the other part of the quilting, and there's even larger stippling. Okay. I'm going to unload the machine with thread. This is the first thing you do when you think about embroidery or quilting with your program. First thing you want to do is remove the bobbin and the thread and open the door. This door has somewhat like this. And to you, it would seem like, how is this?
Yeah.
But it's going to be very, very simple to do. Now, your embroidery unit is quite big, so you want to make sure that you have the space. And if you noticed, I moved my machine down to the right. Hold it by the base. It's like a baby. You'll hold your baby by the arms. Okay? So this is the part of the machine of the embroidery unit that will be moving back and forth and calibrating. So I clear my area entirely. Don't have any liquids or anything that might obstruct this arm. Standing at the end of your machine, you will place it close to the machine and slide. I'll point out the lock. Underneath the arm, you will squeeze, and this lock moves as you squeeze the base. This has a holder underneath the machine that it will fall into and lock. There's nothing going on right now because you can sew regular sewing with this on. Not a problem. Sometimes when, for instance, you're quilting and you need to go back and re-sew something, or kid comes in and this is not too good, so you re-sew. You don't have to drop everything, reassemble and all that. Just toggle. We're going to do that right now. We're going to tell the machine that we are headed for embroidery. On the upper right of the top toolbar is a picture of the embroidery machine. Just touch. This, I think